bet it's a bullet gonna get the last laugh.
Every once in a while, you'll see a poll from a community member where they're talking about what do players want in the future. This is something that I always talk about. Always talk about. This one here you have from Hi Buff Gigas Please. Which one do you prefer for future updates? And then you have Tekken Force, Tag Mode, more story DLC, and Tekken Bowling. The one that I personally would want is Tekken Force. The reason why is because this, if you think about how it can work in a modern setting, it being like a 4-player co-op, it being like a randomized dungeon, it being like a online experience, I think there's just so much more there that the players can sink their teeth into and really have a good time with. In the base story of Tekken 8, they already have that entire chapter where you fight in that little arena with all of these different characters. So they're halfway there. They just need to flesh it out a little bit more to craft it into something that the players can play, over and over again. When I look at tag mode, I'm a big fan of Tekken Tag Tournament 2. Even though when I talk about it in a sense of it not doing so well, and that's because it did, right? It did fail. But my personal experience is that I loved it a lot. When you talk about how tag can be incorporated, or if it can be incorporated into Tekken 8, I don't think that's very likely at all. I remember the developers saying at the start of the game that, the heat system was already adding so much length onto the combos as is, and if you were able to tag somewhere in between that and get another character involved, another character activating heat, the combos would skyrocket to the moon.
So just about tag, please hold off on that. As we mentioned way back when we did tag 2, try to have 4 characters on screen at the same time. Obviously, it really limits your resources, so the stage would have to be really pared down to something that's not that immersive. So that's not really realistic at the moment. So please hold off on the tag comments for now.
And then a lot of people say, oh, well, why don't you remove heat out of the equation and let the 2 characters tag in, right? We'll talk about why that's not likely as well in just a second. But what I do want to move on to is the more story DLC. A lot of people are interested to see what happens next with the story. Like, people, we didn't get to see what Jun Kazama did. We didn't get to see Devil Reina. We didn't even get to see Heihachi interact with Kazuya or Jin. There was a lot that happened in Tekken 8, but when you think about it, the stuff that we were really looking forward to didn't happen. And I think that's why so many players are looking for what comes next. And honestly, I don't know if they do another story DLC. I don't know if how many people completed the story DLC. First off, the story is in the DLC. Does it make sense to add on another chapter so soon? I mean, we'll find out soon enough when they start talking about season 2, but for now, this is what we got. And then Tekken Bowling, I won't spend too much time on this. I think this mode could have been really great in Tekken 7 if they added an online feature to it, but they did not, and it is where it is as a result of it, right? Now, when you talk about, let's go back to the tag thing, right? Why don't they just remove heat and let players, one, play tag mode without heat, and that will reduce the combos? Or 2, what a lot of people say, someone DM'd me on Twitter and was asking about this, why don't they simply create a mode where heat doesn't exist? A lot of people have big issues with heat. Chip damage, power crush, tracking, safe, heat engagers. Some of the strongest moves in the game are revolved or engulfed in heat. And a lot of people feel like if you could just remove that from the game, it would be so much better. And a lot of people ask Harada to do this. And we actually had someone ask Harada a couple of months ago for this exact thing, and this is how he responded. How about adding a no rage arts or a no heat mode? Will be popular with people, don't need gauges in Tekken, something like that, no mode in tournaments. And this kind of reminds me of the tournament that took place in India. It was a small tournament, a local tournament, right? But that tournament, they dislike rage arts so much to where they said rage arts are banned from being used in this tournament. Now that tournament must have been pretty chaotic. Imagine doing an accidental rage art just from muscle memory or something like that. You're gonna have a TO running up on stage to choke slam you if you do that, right? But this is just a testament to how a lot of people reject a lot of these comeback mechanics. Rage arts, one button heat smashes, people miss the old Tekken. Harada's response to this: he's a genius, and since Tekken is already available, you can choose your favorite version from Tekken 1 to 7 and try playing it. By the way, throughout the history of the series, there have always been a certain number of people who say, I don't need 10 hit combos, I don't need air combos, I don't need counter moves, I don't need walls, I don't need infinites, and now I don't need rage. So basically what he is saying here is, if you do not like the heat system, go play one of the older Tekkens that doesn't have all of that. If you don't like Rage, go play one of the other Tekkens. And even though this is like a, this is a response, right? This is a response. There is some truth to it though. Tekken players have a tendency to hate something, but then over time become very, very fond of it. You have many characters who's an example of. I did videos on all of these different topics of the past, but I won't even bring up a specific one. But the point is that the player's mindset change over time. And with the heat system being so problematic, and also the rage system, we have dealt with the rage system for all of Tekken 7 and year 1 of Tekken 8, and players still do not like it. And I would say that's probably because they made it more egregious. You can't punish a rage art with a rage art anymore. The rage arts cover so much more distance than they did in Tekken 7. They have much more tracking than they did in Tekken 7. They're very powerful now, very powerful. Where at Tekken 7, there's a lot of counterplay. You can hit, block the rage art, and then punish. Tekken 8, if you hit, that rage art's going to steamroll you. So when you talk about players slowly over time adjusting and adapting and welcoming the changes, that could really only be possible if the developers stop moving the goalposts, right? With Heat System, a lot of people are looking towards Season 2 for change and for improvements. But the question that I've been asking all the time is, the main problem is force 50/50s that Heat is introducing, right? Chip damage and whatnot. Will the developers look at all of the feedback from players saying that we do not like these mechanics, and will they fold and say, okay, you're right? An example of this, Call of Duty. I used this example before, how they tried to simplify the game and reduce the skill gap. A lot of people was very upset, so they brought it back in Black Ops 6. That game's doing wonderful. Another game, Overwatch, right? The developers, for some reason, they wanted to change it from a 6v6 to a 5v5. Players said that's not a good idea. You shouldn't do that. It turned out horribly in terms of player count numbers, and it destroyed the whole flow of the game. The developers was like, okay, you guys are right. 6v6 is coming back. Will the Tekken developers do that? A lot of players are saying we do not like this, but the only way that this continues is if they get a lot of people who do like it, and they get a lot of people who wants it to continue, and then that's will be the deciding factor, right? There's a lot of people who very silently enjoy Tekken 8. They love Tekken 8. And I wonder which sides is bigger, the people who say change or the people who are happy with the way that it is now, because whichever the two it is, that will dictate how Season 2 evolves and adapts.